Call to order the 29th meeting of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel. This is Monday, March the 23rd at 7 o'clock. I ask everyone to please stand for the invocation by Reverend Litchfield and the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Mayor. Good evening.
Would you join me in a moment of silent prayer in memory of past Chief Archie Cook and Lieutenant Phil Pollock? Almighty God, we gather this evening now to conduct the business of this city. We offer our mayor for our president, for the members of the city council, and for all in authority. Grant unto them a sense of justice, strength, and wisdom as they perform their duties on behalf of all thy people. We commend this nation, our law enforcement, our fine rescue, and thy people to thy merciful care and understanding. Remember those, who, Lord, who lie upon the affliction, and comfort those who mourn. Hear our prayer in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Nicholas?
Here.
Mr. Laz?
Here.
Ms. Crary?
Here.
Mr. Smalls?
Here.
President Ricks?
Here.
Mayor Mel?
I'll ask for the approval of the minutes of the 28th meeting on March the 9th of 2015. Are there any additions or deletions?
Move for adoption, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Les.
Second.
Thank you, Query. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Laz?
Yes.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
Mr. Smalls?
I vote yes.
President Ricks?
Yes. This is the second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1834, map amendment number 843, an ordinance to approve map amendment application number 843 for rezoning of the property known as the Reese/Young property located at 7003 Van Dusen Road, Laurel, Maryland, consisting of 13.134 acres identified as lots 1 and 2, tax parcel 13, by Chester A. Dailey Jr., Melissa M. Reese, and Charles C. Young, located at the intersection of Van Dusen Road and Contee Road, for placement into the MXT zone with the Conceptual Development Plan as required in Section 2012 MXT zone of the City of Laurel United Land Development Code. Mr. Brock.
Mr. President, map amendment application number 843 and MXT concept plan number 844 were filed on January the 30th, 2015 by H.H. Hunt to rezone property known as Reese Young property located at 7003 Van Dusen Road, Laurel, Maryland 20707, which consists of 13.134 acres identified as lots 1 and 2, tax parcel 13, by Chester A. Dailey Jr., Melissa M. Reeves, and Charles C. Young, located at the intersection of Van Dusen Road and Contee Road for placement in the MXT zone with a conceptual development plan as required in Section 20-12 MXT zone of the City of Laurel Unified Land Development Code. On February the 5th, 2015, requests asking for comments were sent to the Maryland State Highway Administration, Prince George's County Health Department, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation, Washington Suburban Sanitation Commission, Maryland Department of Planning, and Prince George's County Public Schools. Responses were received from the following agency. A response was received from Washington Suburban Sanitation Commission, dated February the 26th, 2015. No other responses were received. Also on February the 5th, 2015, memorandums asking for comments were sent to the City of Laurel Police Department and the City of Laurel Parks and Recreation, Public Works. Responses were received on February the 6th, 2015 from the Department of Parks and Recreation, on February the 18th, 2015 from the Laurel Police Department, and on February the 19th, 2015, Department of Public Works. All responses were forwarded to the council and placed in the file. On February 20th, 2015, a notice for filing of the application was sent to all contiguous property owners. 48 were mailed out. With the exception of 28, all have been picked up. The file contains a certificate of publication verifying that both applications and the public hearing were advertised as required by law in the March 12, 2015 and March 19, 2015 edition of the Prince George's Sentinel. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Mayor and City Council dated March 11, 2015 regarding map amendment number 843 reads as follows. At the regular meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on March 10, 2015, the following action was taken on the subject zoning application. A motion by Mrs. Bettman, seconded by Mr. Wilson, and carried on a roll call vote of all members present, the Planning Commission recommended that the Mayor and City Council approve map amendment application number 843 as presented in the technical staff report and proposed ordinance. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Mayor and City Council dated March 11, 2015 regarding MXT Conceptual Plan number 844 reads as follows. At the meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on March 10, 2015, the following action was taken on the subject zoning application. On motion by Mr. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Kish, and carried on a roll call vote of all members present, the Planning Commission recommended that the Mayor and City Council approve MXT Conceptual Plan Application number 844 as presented in the technical staff report. And that concludes the reading of the file, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. I'll open the public hearing at 6:07. Mr. DeVito. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. President, Council. My name is Eric DeVito. I am an attorney here on behalf of the applicant H.H. Hunt, who actually is present here tonight by Mr. Bo Cook and Mr. Tom Hudson, are representatives of H.H. Hunt, the applicant. Mr. Young is also here this evening, one of the property owners that's part of this application. I did send to Ms. Rao the presentation we made to the Planning Commission on March 10th. I'm happy to run through those slides with you here if you'd like to see them, but mainly, we've, as Mr. Brock noted, the Planning Commission, we addressed all their questions and all of their comments. We showed them, we gave a taste, and actually you can just sort of run through these slides as I'm speaking, if that's okay with you. You can get sort of a flavor for the what we're proposing to do. The one thing I would like to just leave a taste in your mind is these really are the first two steps in the process. This assisted living use that's being proposed requires a special exception pursuant to your city code, so we'll be back again. We also have the detailed site plan that has to go along with it. So these are the first two necessary steps, and we are looking forward to taking the next steps. That's why I don't necessarily want to belabor you with a long presentation right now, although I'm more than willing to do it. But what I really wanted to get to is some of the pictures of the facility that they are proposing. These are just various other facilities that H.H. Hunt has developed elsewhere. It gives you a flavor for some of the architectural features. And if you get through some of these, you'll actually see some of the interior pictures as well. These are some of the outdoor areas and sidewalks around the facilities. Here are some of the internal community meeting rooms, and then we'll get to the dining hall and other seating areas. We also presented a preliminary marketing study to the Planning Commission that showed the need in the area, the competitiveness of their this type of facility compared to other options in the area. And that marketing study, which we provided the Planning Commission, showed that this is obviously very needed and a very competitive facility. And this last photo is sort of a rendering of the type of facility that they're proposing here. This is a taller facility that's more because of the site constraints here. It's a smaller site, so you're seeing a multi-story facility compared to some of the single-story facilities, but that is really the understanding of the developer of what would work best for the sites that we have. And at that, I will close my presentation and welcome any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. At 7:10, I'll close the public hearing. And what's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. President, I move that we approve map amendment number 843 as read into the record.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Smalls?
I vote yes.
Ms. Nicholas? Mr. Laz?
Yes.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
President Ricks?
Yes.
Mayor Mel?
I'm going to concur, and thank you all for coming to Laurel, and I think it's a great project and need it in the city, so thank you.
Thank you to the court reporter. Appreciate your services. Move on to item number 9. Oh, excuse me. We'll go back to where we should have been, and that would be the general public hearing. No, the report of the mayor and city council. I'll call on Ms. Nicholas first.
Thank you, President. I'd like to just thank the staff, Mike Lofsky and his staff, for putting together the open house. I know I called and worried you all to death, so I thank you for that. I'd also like to also thank all the recipients of the Volunteer Rescue Squad Awards that was a couple of weeks ago. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Ms. Query?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Ms. Nicholas summed it up. We'd also like to send our condolences out to the Cook and Pollock family, and also switching gears, this Saturday we have the extravaganza coming up at Goody Lake at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Liz?
Thank you, Mr. President. March 11th, I attended the Tuxet River Commission meeting in Annapolis. Also that day, I had met with John Spearman at Laurel Regional Hospital to discuss the future of the Laurel Regional Hospital Foundation. March 14th, myself, along with council and the mayor, attended the Laurel Volunteer Rescue Squad banquet. Congratulations to all members, and especially the award winners. March 16th, I had the pleasure of testifying on extending our bond bill dollars for the Laurel Armory before the House Appropriations Committee and the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee in Annapolis. You've heard about the mayor's open house. It was a very nice event. You've heard it was a very sad day for Laurel with the loss of Archie Cook and Phil Pollock from our police department. Phil was from Locust Valley, New York. His family had a package store in Locust Valley, and when I was growing up, I spent summers in Glen Cove, which was the next town over. I had many friends in Locust Valley, and although I did not know Phil at that time, we had discussed mutual friends in his hometown on many occasions. My condolences to both of their families. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Les. Mr. Smalls?
Thank you, Mr. President. Like my colleagues, I attended the open house. It was, I think, well attended and well organized. I also, on Saturday, had the opportunity to attend the open house for the Magnificent Bodies, which is just a few doors away from City Hall. It was a little intimidating since I was the only man there, but I think they run a very good program, and I pledge that when they start their 6 a.m. Sessions this spring, that I will be there. Yeah, It was said in good faith. I'd also like to extend my condolences to the Cook and Pollock family. As many of us I certainly have my stories of Phil Pollock. I met him several years ago when I was president of my homeowners association, and we formed a bond under what at the time was a little stressed circumstance, but from that point forward, I thought him to be a very professional and personable police officer. He was I think a corporal at the time that I met him, or maybe a private, but I really enjoyed working with him over the years, and he'll be missed. That's my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My condolences to the police department as well, and if there's anything that we can do to assist, please do not hesitate to contact us. Mayor Mo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me also give condolences to retired Chief Archie Cook and his family, as well as you've heard retired Captain Phil Pollock. Both worked their way up through the ranks here, one becoming chief, one becoming captain before they retired. And again, I think our services set for both of them. You can get probably contact the police department for those in the public that want to know the arrangements for both. I think had the opportunity to attend Lovely Ladies Black History Month celebration at Dwight D. Eisenhower Middle School. I want to thank them for the invitation. A great program. The Lovely Ladies continue to do outstanding work for the community. I did attend the Laurel Volunteer Rescue Squad banquet. I want to thank the chief and chairman of the board, as well as all the officers and members that continue to serve and work in a volunteer mode as they do when it comes to fire and rescue and EMS. The annual open house to Mike Lotsky, I guess Joanne Barr, the deputy director, took the lead on that with many from Mike's office. I want to thank them. I think made some changes this year. I think all worked well. We had a good turnout despite having to cancel the first one. Let me thank all the management staff and staff members that came and helped and participated and helped clean up, set up, and work the program. So thank you all very much. We did have the opportunity to attend Luke LaVoy's, the former Laurel Leader reporter. We attended a little gathering they had for Luke, who took on a new job. Luke has covered the city for several years, did a fine job, and we know he'll be missed. I want to thank Mr. Les, who attended and took part in the Anderson Murphy Community Center renovations. There was some hearings in Annapolis on that, and Mike was able to go down and testify on both hearings, and that's important. Thank you for that, Mike. As you heard, on March the 28th, the Park and Recs extravaganza will be held at Goody Park at 1 o'clock. You need to be there 15 minutes before 1 because 5 after 1, it's over once they say go. So if you're going to participate, which is a great opportunity for the youth of Laurel that put on, I think, with the Laurel Lions Club as well. So it's a lot of fun, but once they say go in 5 minutes, it's over with. So be at Goody Lake. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this particular time, it's 7:18, and I'll open the general public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak on any topic before the mayor and city council? Seeing none, I'll close the general public hearing at 7:18, excuse me. At this time, we'll have the number 9 on our agenda, which is the second public hearing and possible action on ordinance number 1835. An ordinance to amend the operating budget of the mayor and city council of Laurel, Maryland for the fiscal year of July 1st, 2014 through June the 30th of 2015. Ms. Saylor.
Mr. President, we first discussed this at the March work session, and it was introduced at your last meeting on March 9th. Since that time, Mr. Faree and his office have identified $55,000 in the vehicle maintenance budget, and we're proposing to transfer that money to the snow and ice removal budget to cover the final overages, as well as get everything stocked and repaired, and to purchase the salt spreader for next season.
Thank you, Ms. Saylor. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. at 7:19. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll close it at 7:20. What's the decision of the council?
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I recommend that we approve ordinance number 1835.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Crary,
Yes.
Mr. Laz.
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas,
Yes.
Mr. Smalls,
I vote yes.
President Ricks.
Yes.
Mayor Mel.
I'll concur.
Number 10 is the second public hearing with possible action on resolution number 5-15, a resolution of the mayor and city council of Laurel, Maryland, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Signal Outdoor Advertising, LLC, for the maintenance of existing bus shelters throughout the city and the installation of new bus shelters as directed by the city. Open the public hearing at 7:20. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll close it at 7:21. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I recommend that we approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Ms. Crary,
Yes.
Mr. Smalls,
I vote yes.
Ms. Nicholas,
Yes.
Mr. Laz.
Yes.
President Ricks.
Yes.
Mayor Mel.
I'll concur.
Item number 11 is a second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1838. An ordinance to amend Chapter 17, Traffic of the Code of the City of Laurel, Title 17-3, Installation of Traffic Control Devices, Title 1739, Handicap Parking Zone, Title 1740, Bus Stop Zones, Title 1776, Designation of Snow Emergency Streets, and Title 17137, Stop and Yield Intersections, to authorize the Director of Public Works rather than the City Council to make determinations regarding the installation and removal of stop signs, yield signs, no left turn signs, no left-hand turn signs from 4 to 6 p.m., signs, no U-turn signs, school zone signs, bus stop signs, no parking signs, and speed limit signs, to designate no parking areas, snow emergency routes, and location of handicap parking spaces on city streets, and other non-substantive changes generally relating to traffic regulations in the city. I'll open the public hearing at 7:22. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:22. Pleasure of the council.
Mr. President, I move for the approval of ordinance number 1838 as read into the record.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Laz,
Yes.
Ms. Crary,
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas,
Yes.
Mr. Smalls,
I vote yes.
President Ricks.
Yes.
Mayor Mel.
Item number 12 is introduction and first public hearing on text amendment number 1844, text amendment number 238, an ordinance and to amend the Chapter 20 Land Development and Subdivision, Article 1, Zoning, Division 1, in the general section title 1.7, Definitions, to amend and add definitions, Division 5, Zoning Districts, Section 20-7, Commercial Zones, to amend Table of Commercial Uses, and Division 6, Parking and Loading Facilities, to amend Section 20-16.5, the Schedule of Parking Requirements of the City of Laurel Code, and providing an effective date. I'll open the public hearing at 7:24. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll close at 7:24 and a half. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Brock.
Yes, Mr. President. The text amendment before you tonight amends 3 sections of the Unified Land Development Code. First is definitions, which is a clarification and updating of two of the definitions and adding a definition for lodging house, which is a permitted use. However, it's not defined in the ordinance. The second change is commercial zoning. That is also updating some commercial uses, updating the language from automobile laundry to automobile wash, and also houses of worship, changing in certain zoning districts from permitted use to a special exception use, as well as in the office building zone, changing a house of worship from a permitted to a special exception use. And the final section is a revision to the entire parking and loading facility zone. This was an article that Mr. Brindle worked on. This updates the zoning codes in order to allow for more usable, more friendly parking regulations, and it updates them. They're pretty much compatible with our contiguous local governments. And that concludes the presentation, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So I will definitely amend myself and close this public hearing, and it's 7:26. For those of you that were not on the council 20 years ago, this next one takes me back at least 25 years. Bear with me. This is item number 13. Introduction and first public hearing on ordinance number 1845, an ordinance repealing and reenacting the amendments of Chapter 18, Building and Building Regulations of the Code of the City of Laurel to adopt 2015 editions of the International Building Codes, the International Existing Building Codes, the International Residential Codes of Maryland, Accessibility Codes, International Energy Conservation Codes, International Mechanical Codes, International Fuel Gas Codes, National Electrical Codes, National Fire Protection Association Fire Codes, and Life Safety Codes, International Swimming Pool and Spa Codes, to renumber sections to amend the provisions of Chapter 18 as necessary to reflect the changes to the various codes identified above, to amend the City Code section titled 18-49 Fire Lanes, to provide that the fire marshal shall establish and enforce fire lanes within the city, and providing the authority for fire lane signs, and the designation of the installation of such signs, to amend section 18-57.14, use and occupancy classifications, section 302 classifications, to provide that a room or space used for different purposes at different times comply with the requirements applicable to each use, to section 18-57-22, means of egress, section 1009, stairways to address fire rating and exterior walls, to add section 18-57.27.2, window well drains, to require window wells to have drains, to amend section 18-70, smoke carbon monoxide detectors, to require that all new and replaced smoke carbon monoxide detectors be 10-year battery type detectors, to amend section 18-99.4.2, article 210.70, other than dwelling units, to require that an automatically controlled luminary be required on exterior of the buildings at every exterior door, and emergency illumination be required in all restrooms, to amend section 18-99.6.1, article 310, conductors for general wiring, to provide when aluminum conductors are permitted, to amend section 18-99.8, article 410, luminaries, lighting fixtures, lamp holders, and lamps, to locate of the location thereof in bathtubs and shower areas, to add section 18-149 door-to-door solicitations, license required to require door-to-door solicitations to obtain a city license, to amend City Code Section 18-157 definitions, to add definitions to the Board of Housing, dwelling, multifamily, multi-unit, apartment house, lodging houses, rooming houses, to amend Section 18-158 space, use, and location, to require full bathroom and boarding houses, lodging houses, and rooming houses upon the issuance of a new use and occupancy permit of building permits, to add section 18-181.3, prohibited disposal of refuge on property of other without consent, to make it unlawful to dispose of refuge on land of another, and providing an effective date. Mr. Cope.
Mayor, Mr. President, council members. That was my city phone that went off, so apparently somebody must have saw me and decided to call me, so I apologize for that. But basically, this is Chapter 18, mandated by the state law, the state to adopt the code. The state adopted it January 1st. What we've done is taken a lot of language and cleaned a lot of language up on a code. We have a little bit over 100 hours on this code, just trying to make everything clear. I guess we'll speak more on this in a work session, but this is basically the fire code for the city of Laurel. One of the biggest things we added here is fire lane. We were following Prince George County's fire lanes, and they weren't really jiving with what we were doing, so we decided to redesign them and draw them to our own selves. So we have our own fire lanes that well established. So,
Okay.
I know you'll want to talk after reading all that. So.
Like I said, it takes me back many a year, I can tell you that. So I've read it into the record for the first reading, and we'll have the second, I'll open the public hearing at 7:31. Does anyone else wish to speak? Council have any questions? We'll have the second hearing on April the 1st at our meeting, and we'll close the public hearing at 7:32.
Could we amend the title next time? And just say building and fire code, life safety?
Gets paid by the word. Is there anything else come before the council tonight? Seeing none, thank everybody. Meeting is adjourned.